Is it going to be permanent?
100%, because if you look at it, a few months back we were talking about the end of the petrodollar. So that's basically the removal of the dollar as the primary transactionary medium for all petrol transactions, petrol contracts. And Russia has actually sped that up by demanding from Europe that they should pay for oil in the ruby, I mean the ruby, the ruby, and for India as well as China to be paying for oil in their own currencies, which basically means the world is basically an axis and things are changing.
Yeah, much as I agree with you that things are changing, and much as I hold the conviction that things should change, I feel like no situation is permanent in life. I feel like okay, just like in football.
Yeah.
Just like football, I feel like the power is always held at intervals. Like you have one team dominating, let's say for 10 years, or for 5 years, for 8 years. Then you have another team taking over, and it will also dominate maybe for like 15 years, like for like 12 years. This is exactly what happens in politics.
All right.
If the geopolitical arena was to shift, of course, I'm very much confident that it's going to shift. But even if it does so, I don't really think like Russia, for instance, if Russia was to come on top, I don't feel like they will manage to hold that spot for like 40 years, 50 years. There's going to be another player stronger than Russia. Maybe the Americans.
So there are two things coming about when you're talking about the situation of the world order. We're talking about politics. We're talking about geopolitics. We're talking about the economy. And then we're also talking about something called technology or innovation.
Yes, but I feel like let's leave out the economic aspect.
And then just talk about the geopolitics.
Like, let's talk about the geopolitics and the philosophy revolving around mind and reactions.
Now let's talk about the emotional aspect of all this. Yeah. So the way I look at it is that everyone is clear on what the political implications are. Everyone is clear about the economic implications. But then not everyone is clear about one aspect, the psychological aspect of this. So the reason being that I think we are more materialistic than we are when you're looking at non-material things. So we like to prioritize what is material and what is not, what is not. The psychological aspect of this is we're looking at the human nature and the human experience.
Yes.
We're human beings. So as human beings, we usually experience things from a first-hand perspective. We can study things from a second-hand perspective, but the best way to experience humanity is from the first-person experience.
And I feel like we shouldn't underestimate this part.
On the emotional aspect.
Yes, like the emotional aspect is very imperative. It is very significant. I feel like trying to belittle this aspect, then we're missing out on a big big thing.
You said you're a tradition. I mean, you do subscribe to some traditionalist.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I believe you do understand a little bit about the traditional spiritual aspects of all this.
Yeah.
So the thing is, as human beings, we exist between two forms of hysteria. Positive hysteria and negative hysteria. And in the middle is where we are at our most composed blank state. We're neither sad or happy, neither negative or positive. Now, if you're looking at imagine in your brain, imagine you're looking at the world, and then you're trying to see which population in the world now right now not only has the largest impact but has the lowest, I mean, the most negative hysteria to them. You find that at the moment, of course, there are a lot of wars happening, but the epicenter, it's right now in Ukraine because that's where people are being killed. I mean, people are being killed by their own distant cousins or something like that. And not only that, they're being killed with weird and sophisticated technology. That's where a lot of global economically damning actions are stemming from. Like right now, when Malawi, but I can actually feel the cost of it because the price of fuel has actually increased. I'm probably having to pay 10% more on everything that I buy because of something that is happening across the continent. I mean, a continent away, you see. So this is something that we can actually trace the flow of negative emotions flowing from one particular area. So if you were a spiritual human being, you'd say there's a negative aspect coming from one particular place. I don't know who is to blame, but then that's how it is right now. So that's where we come with the contagion of emotion. Because something that is contagious is something that moves from one person to another. So if a negative emotion comes from one individual, whether it's a negative emotion of war, a negative emotion of anger, or a negative, whether it's a negative emotion or a positive emotion, if it transfers from one person to another, we're talking about contagion of emotion. Now, we have to look at it that way and say that emotions are contagious.
Let's actually take it from that angle. How our minds are reacting to this, global crisis, because this is a crisis, the showdown between the Russians and the Ukrainians. And let's look closely at how this kind of situation is affecting people in Malawi, people in Zambia, people in America, people in Asia. Let's scrutinize the emotion aspect. So, just like my friend has said that something that is contagious is something that is transferred from one point to another. Something that is transferred from one point to another. So let us look at how this situation is affecting the global arena, the global stage. Blessings. Actually, how are you reacting? How is your mind reacting to this global crisis?
Okay, that's a very general question. But then, basically, how I can put it is, I'm in a study room right now. So basically, the way I'm reacting to it is, I'm trying to understand what is going on and how it's gonna affect everyone, and then trying to understand how it can affect us as individuals and how we ought to react to it.
Yes.
Because usually, human beings are better at reacting to negative news and negative stimuli than positive stimuli. So because of that, if there is an overabundance of negative news, it dumbs down our level of empathy to the extent that we don't feel pain anymore. We don't feel what is going on around anymore. You see. We can look at what is right. I mean, the rise of prices and just be like, whatever, man. It's life. Nobody cares after all. But then that's the thing. The most dangerous thing is we're a society that has become too engrossed with, too focused on material things. And then we discard the immaterial. The extent that the immaterial, even though the immaterial affects us, we cannot be able to tackle it because we don't understand it. You see, that's why we can even look at the fact that we're living in a society where sometimes even grown-ups act like children because we have not understood that aspect. Actually, I did not understand this aspect because I didn't know that human emotions are more complex than human intellect.
Yeah.
Did you ever think of that?
Yes,
The
yes.
human intellect is only a small fraction of the human emotional array.
And I feel like
As in, it's the emotions are just too wide.
And we underestimate this part.
Yeah, because
people don't talk about it. Yes, people don't talk about this. We actually advanced, intellectualism at the expense of
so
minds.
that's where I think the emotions, are tied to even your spiritual beliefs. Because have you noticed that most times when people are spiritually ingrained or spiritually engrossed in a particular concept, it actually overrides their ability to think independently. There's this old saying, it's not really old, but I saw it in a certain book. It says, if you want people to remember something, right? Put it in books. After 100 years, if you want them to remember after 100 years, put it in books.
Yeah. I agree with you on that one.
If you want
let me wholeheartedly agree
yeah,
with you on that
so
one.
if you want people to remember something for 100 years, put it in books. But if you want to put people to remember something for 1,000 years, put it in religion. I'm not going to disclose what book that was, but basically it was encouraging the people who were writing that book to put certain concepts into their religion, because if they put it in their religion, 1,000 years later, or even 2,000 years later, people remember.
So our mind is 100%
like,
connected to the religion, as well as our soul.
So emotions, whoever controls your emotions controls you. Whoever controls the emotions of an entire race of people controls them.
Just like how we...
And not only controlling them for 200 years or 400 years, but for 1,000 years.
Okay, I was trying to say that just like how we subscribe to Christianity and relate Christianity, get the best out of us. Because
Christianity is... I don't want to talk about Christianity.
Yeah, like
let's but then what I can say is every religion has ideologies. Now, the greatest danger is in mixing the two and not separating them when you're analyzing them. I believe that, I and some of my friends believe that we're here to learn.
For real?
We're here to learn. Like, if you're born, when
a person is born, here just to live up to the day we die?
No, that's for lower animals or plants maybe, but for human beings it's different.
Yeah,
because the human being
we have got many purposes on this earth. We have got many purposes. Some just live to eat, just to survive, up until the day
they die.
They die and they're lowered 6 feet deep.
So you must understand one thing about the human being. I don't know if you have studied the evolution of human beings, but then human beings became different from every other animal. Not because of our great intellect. No. Because there are other animals that actually remember more than human beings. You know, an elephant never forgets. You can meet it when you're a kid. 20 years later, it will see you and say, oh, that's Bulamawi.
Yes.
An elephant never forgets, even if it's just for a minute.
I heard about that.
You've heard of that before, right? Yeah, because human beings have this ability, this thinking that we are higher on the food chain, on the intellect.
We're on top of the food chain.
Or not on the food chain, but maybe on the intellect aspect.
Chain.
We are not on the highest prism or the highest pinnacle of even memory or intelligence. But we are at the highest pinnacle of